You worked in Hollywood as a child actor.
Yes.
What did you make about the recent news on Nickelodeon and Quiet on Set and all of that?
None of it surprises me at all. I feel very, very lucky because I had a great experience. But I had a fantastic experience because I had a mother that was literally a shark, who was so, I just cannot say enough good things about her, who was so engaged in every part of my upbringing and my career, not as a momager, but as a mother. Someone who knew that this industry had the reputation that it did. She already knew about the casting couch. She knew about child actors and the drug usage and the scandals. She was not interested in me doing any of that. But I loved it. Like, I lived for performing. That's all I wanted to do. And so she saw that in me and wanted to be able to support that. And I've seen a lot of comments, actually, of people saying, you know, if your mom knew these things about the industry, why did she let you move to LA to audition? Why did she take you to New York so that you could go audition for Broadway shows? I just want to take this opportunity to answer it. My brother died when I was 5 years old. He was 17. He was an artist, super, super creative. And up until that point, my mom had kind of tried not to put my brothers in a box, but she was like, you know, it was a more of a one-size-fits-all parenting approach. My brother who died is a twin. And so she kind of put the twins together, and she was dealing with her failing marriage with my father, and that kind of took priority over the kids. And after he died, she made a conscious decision with me that she was going to completely change that. She was like, I'm not going to prioritize this marriage that is, you know, there is no future, really. She had already kind of decided, both of them had decided that. I'm going to put this child first. And then one thing that she said is, you know, if I knew that David was going to die at 17 years old, and he had all of these ambitions and things that he wanted to accomplish, what would I have done to make sure that he got those opportunities, that he got to enjoy every aspect of that? And so that's why we did it, because she saw that I loved it. I came alive when I was on stage. A lot of things in my family, I think, really shut me down. Losing my brother at a young age, my parents' relationship obviously took a major turn for the worse after he died. My brothers really kind of went off the deep end in a lot of ways as well. I became very closed off, suppressed. I would literally like hide in kitchen cabinets when people would come over because I didn't want to speak. That all went away when I got on stage and was performing. And so she wanted to keep that up as much as possible because that was my one outlet. So anyway, that's kind of the backstory of how I ended up there and why she was willing to put me in those situations, and also why she was so willing to protect me. So then back to the point, I knew all of that growing up. I knew that it was happening. I had experiences, nothing like what was discussed on, why am I blanking?
Quiet on
Set. I was about to say After Dark. Quiet on Set. You know, Jeanette McCurdy wrote her fantastic book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, about her very abusive mother, momager, and her experience with Dan Schneider. She didn't name in her book, but she just called him the creator, obviously for legal reasons. So when I read her book, I remember getting to the end of her book literally just like crying because I was like,
did you ever interact with Dan Schneider?
No. I auditioned for some of his projects. I don't know if I was ever in the room with him. I mean, it was literally, he was so prolific in Hollywood still at the time when I was coming up that at least once a week there would be, I could probably go back in my old email now and, you know, Untitled Dan Schneider Project, Untitled Dan Schneider Project. My mom already knew about that reputation. It was so commonplace that he was a creep that I think I might have auditioned for a couple of them, but she drew a line in the sand and said, that guy's a weirdo. She's not going out for any of those projects. She's not going to go work at Nickelodeon. I desperately wanted to be on the modern iteration of Boy Meets World, which is called Girl Meets World, which obviously catapulted Rowan Blanchard and Sabrina Carpenter to fame. I desperately wanted it. And so I like fought with my mom. I was like, please let me go out for this. Please let me go out for this. She did not want me on Disney Channel, did not want me on Nickelodeon because she knew that those children's networks were so filled with creeps. And I ended up doing one children's show at a different network. And that is where my bad experience was. And it's so predictable because it's the men who choose to work with children, with young girls.
What happened?
It was after the show had ended. And I told the story with Jordan, and I got a call from my mom. She was like, you missed an important component of the story. So I can actually share that here. It was the writer on the show. And he had wanted to connect with me and another girl who were on the show. And, you know, he was always writing new things and I'm going to create another show. in Hollywood, it's very normal, oh, let's go have coffee or lunch with this, person who could get you this next job. It's always like, what's going to get me that next job? So he had reached out to this girl who was a co-star on the show with me, was a very, very good friend of mine at the time. And her mom reached out to mine. I think he had mentioned something about, I'd love to see Brett as well. So her mom reached out to mine and said, hey, Brett's friend is going to go meet up with this guy. Would Brett like to go and connect with him? And, it'd be great. He wants to see her. And so we ended up going to the Griffith Observatory. And this woman told my mom, I'm going to be with them the entire time. I'm going to watch them. Don't worry. I'll be the parent in the room. My mom said, okay, great. Last time she ever trusted anybody in that regard. And so my mom dropped me off. I went up there. Her mother was nowhere in sight. Watched from the car, basically. Walked around the Griffith Observatory. This man immediately launches into his lesbian fantasies that he has with me and this other girl at 14 years old. Again, the creator and writer of a children's show. And I get immediately very, very weirded out. We're walking. There's this part in the Griffith Observatory where you can go and you see what your weight would be if you're out, on the moon or in space. And so we went and stood on this, and he looked at my friend and said, I want to know how much you weigh with your clothes off. It's stuff like that. And so then we finally got out of the museum. He's told us about our lesbian fantasies, whatever. We're walking back towards the restaurant, and he sticks his hand in our back pockets, as he's walking like this. And I immediately am just absolutely, get off of me. My friend shoots me a look don't screw this up for me. Don't say anything. So I don't. So we just keep walking. Get back to the car, whatever. I immediately, dropped off at my house. I talked to my mom. This is so weird. I never want to be around this man again. This was so uncomfortable, so creepy. My mom calls her mom. Her mom admits that she knew. That's why she wanted me there, because I would be a buffer. She said, we know that he's weird. We've gotten very weird vibes. I didn't want her to be alone with him, so we wanted Brett to be there. So she knew. But she was so desperate to have her daughter, and her daughter was so desperate, I don't know if it was coming from her or coming from her mother, to be in this room and not rock the boat because she desperately wanted a new show, a new audition, a new job, that she was willing to take it and be in that space and then put another child in that situation. And that was normal. And this guy would show up he was very enmeshed in my friend group for a long time because he just worked with all these young people. Would show up to teenage birthday parties where maybe an acting teacher or somebody would drop by and drop a present. Hey, happy birthday, whoever your name is, have a great party, whatever. This guy would come, stay until 2 a.m. with 16 and 17-year-olds who are obviously getting drunk and getting high, whatever teenage actors are doing. Painted portraits of child actors was a whole thing on his social media. I was just very, very weird. And so it's nothing compared to what so many have been through. But even in my limited experience, even with a mother that was so careful, that I still had that. And I think that I was in an interesting position because I loved acting and I loved my career and I loved working, but my mom had done a very good job of kind of saying, this is not your whole identity. This isn't your whole life. You never have to do anything that you're not comfortable with. Acting is fun. It should always be fun. It should be a hobby. You should never cross any lines that you're not willing to cross for that. And I don't think that was instilled in my peers. So my friend who was, shot me that death stare. Don't say anything about him touching my butt. And for this man groping a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, I think she was a year older than me. I didn't have that. I didn't care. Who cares if he doesn't like me? And again, my mom knew all of this going into it. She put me in self-defense against sexual assault, women's self-defense against sexual assault. Starting at age 11 or 12, I was fighting literally in rape scenarios, date rape situations, would do that twice a week, was in private lessons, did that for probably 7 years. And I think that was a huge part of it. Martial arts are just, I think, so important for both men and women, but especially young girls. I think it's so underrated because the confidence that I had because of that, because I knew how to defend myself, because one of the first things that you learn is how to say no and how to use your voice and understanding that where you're being touched, that's not right. I had that and she didn't. And that's why I was, put in those classes. So my mom was like, you're going into rooms with people that I don't know. You're being brought in by a casting director to go into a room for 15 minutes and do a scene. I have no idea what they're doing to you in there. You need to know, again, what is appropriate and what's not.
Interesting, this sort of line that is kind of similar to helicopter parenting, but done in a empowered, safe way that's aiming to try and give you as much independence and security as possible.
It was the foundation that was more of a, not a helicopter, but like, I'm going to be very, very careful so that then you can go out and do whatever you want. And I know.
You know, similar to the flirting and how to detect whether or not someone likes you, it's the subtle differences. It's the deftness, right? Yes. It's the nuance that's really, really important in how you do this. The wildest thing about that story is the complicity of both the girl and the mother.
Did not care. When they were called on it, oh, sorry. Yeah, he's
so it's just
really
kind of
weird.
The price of doing business.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that in Hollywood that I think that's one of the reasons why I made, a conscious decision when I was in college that I was like, I don't think this is for me, because there's a big price. They ask for your everything. They ask for you to be complicit in whatever they want to do. They ask for you to give up your life and your stability and your control over your personal life. I mean, at the drop of a hat, you need to fly to Vancouver and shoot this and whatever. They don't care about your personal life, which is fine. It's an industry. They need to, film things when they need to film things and where they need to film things. But I was not a person that was willing to give all of that. I was also not willing to sacrifice my values. This kind of goes back to the politics stuff. I would get scripts constantly. I would look at the characters that I'm playing. I would read the script in its entirety if I was, got a movie script. And I would sit down and I would dissect, what are they trying to tell audiences with this story? And I would deeply disagree with it. I would hate what my character was being used to convey. And you have no control over that because you're just a shell. That's your job.
In other news, this episode is brought to you by Momentous. Trust really is everything when it comes to supplements. A lot of brands may say that they're top quality, but few can actually prove it, which is why I partnered with Momentous. They make the highest quality supplements on the planet, unparalleled with their testing, and I've fallen in love with their Whey Isolate protein powder. Each batch is exclusively sourced from EU dairy farmers whose cows are grass-fed and free of hormones and steroids and all of the other junk. And Momentous is unparalleled when it comes to rigorous third-party testing. So what you read on the label is what's in the product and absolutely nothing else. Plus, it's NSF and Informed Sports certified, meaning it is so highly tested that even Olympic athletes can use it. Best of all, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you're not sure, you can buy it completely risk-free. Try it for 30 days, and if you do not like it, they will give you your money back. You can get up to a 20% discount site-wide by going to the link in the show notes below or heading to livemomentous.com/modernwisdom using the code modernwisdom at checkout. That's livemomentous.com/modernwisdom and modernwisdom at checkout. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, you will love the full-length podcast with Brett, which is available right here. Go on. What are you waiting for?